Beneath one of Europe's oldest cities, its name still debated by historians who prefer discretion over sensationalism, there runs a second city made of stone, shadow, and silence. Tunnels carved by Roman engineers intersect with medieval cellars. Plague pits lie beneath Renaissance foundations. Layers of history stack downward like pages pressed into the earth. It was in this buried world, during a routine infrastructure project, that workers uncovered something no map, record, or legend had prepared them for. They found a bell, not fragments. Not a cracked remnant or decorative piece. A complete bell, intact and upright, sealed inside a carefully constructed stone chamber far below street level. It was not attached to a tower. There were no ropes, no supports, no mechanism to ring it. The bell simply stood there, as if waiting. What followed unsettled not only archaeologists, but the entire city above. The discovery occurred during excavation for a new utility tunnel. The crew expected soil, debris, perhaps an old wall. Instead, their drills struck dressed stone-smooth blocks fitted with precision uncommon for underground construction. When a section was removed, it revealed a small vaulted chamber no larger than a chapel apse. At its center stood the bell, resting on a low stone base. It was immediately clear that this was not scrap metal repurposed or accidentally buried. The chamber had been built specifically to contain the bell. Its walls bore no ornamentation, no inscriptions, no religious symbols. No soot from candles, no offerings. Nothing that explained why this space existed. The bell itself was large, nearly 2 meters tall, and cast from a bronze alloy that initial analysis suggested was inconsistent with known formulas from the region. Its surface was smooth but not polished, bearing faint concentric lines from the casting process. There were no saints' names, no dates, no foundry marks, no crosses, no coats of arms. It was, in every way that mattered to historians, anonymous. City archives were searched immediately. Church inventories from every century were examined. Bells were among the most meticulously documented objects in European cities. They were expensive, symbolic, and politically significant. Bells marked time, summoned worship, warned of invasion, announced executions, celebrated coronations. Their casting and installation were public events. Yet no record ecclesiastical or civic mentioned a bell buried underground. Theories proliferated quickly. Some suggested it was hidden during wartime, buried to prevent looting or seizure. But bells hidden in such circumstances were typically broken up, melted down, or stored temporarily. They were not sealed inside custom-built stone chambers. Others proposed a failed casting discarded below ground. Metallurgical testing ruled that out. The bell had been tuned. Its thickness varied subtly in ways that suggested careful acoustic planning. This bell had been meant to ring. Against protocol, the accident happened. While documenting the chamber, one of the workers struck the bell lightly with a metal tool. Accounts differ on whether it was intentional curiosity or an inadvertent tap. What is consistent is the description of the sound. It was not loud. It did not echo dramatically through the tunnel. It produced a low, sustained tone that seemed to settle rather than travel. Those present described an odd physical sensation, a pressure in the chest, a fleeting dizziness. The sound faded quickly. The incident was logged and dismissed. Within days, the first reports began. Residents living several blocks away complained of vivid dreams involving sound. Not noise, not music, but a single resonant tone that seemed to come from nowhere and everywhere at once. Some described it as comforting, others as oppressive. A few said it woke them repeatedly at the same hour each night, though clocks showed no consistency. The reports were dismissed as coincidence. Cities produce rumors as naturally as they produce heat. But the complaints continued, spreading outward in an uneven radius from the excavation site. Sleep clinics noted an unusual cluster of patients reporting auditory dreams with no external stimulus. Psychologists were consulted. Stress, suggestion, urban anxiety, these explanations were offered and accepted publicly. Privately, the archaeologists were uneasy. When the bell was examined more closely, additional anomalies emerged. Its interior bore no clapper. There was no evidence one had ever been attached. The bell had not been designed to be rung in the conventional way. Its base was solid. Its crown lacked the usual loop or yoke fitting. If it had been meant to produce sound, it would have required a method unknown to standard bell-making traditions. Acoustic specialists were brought in. When they measured the bell's resonant properties, they discovered that its primary frequency fell below the range of most environmental noise, bordering on infrasound. Such frequencies are known to affect human perception and emotion, inducing unease, vivid imagery, and in some cases, auditory hallucinations. That alone might have explained the dreams, except for one detail. The bell was no longer being struck. After the initial incident, access to the chamber was restricted. No one touched the bell again. No vibrations were recorded. Seismographs showed nothing unusual. And yet, the dreams persisted. More troubling still, some residents reported hearing the bell while awake not as sound, but as a sensation, a feeling of pressure accompanied by certainty. They could not describe the tone, only the knowledge that it was ringing. Historical parallels were sought. Scholars scoured records for references to underground bells, ritual sound devices, or buried acoustic instruments. A few obscure texts surfaced. Medieval chronicles spoke vaguely of warning bells that do not call the ear, but the soul. Monastic writings hinted at sounds used not to summon congregations, but to mark thresholds between prayer and silence, life and death, time and eternity. None of these sources provided evidence, only metaphors. One theory suggested that the bell was never meant to be heard by the living at all. Some funerary traditions, especially those influenced by pre-Christian beliefs, held that sound could guide the dead or mark the boundary between worlds. Bells rung at funerals were thought to confuse malevolent spirits or help souls find their way. An underground bell, sealed away, might have been intended as a permanent signal, an anchor in the unseen. But why hide it? And why erase all mention of it? Another hypothesis proposed that the bell was a form of civic control. Bells regulated medieval life. They dictated when people woke, worked, prayed, and slept. An underground bell, inaudible but perceptible, might have been an experiment in influence, an attempt to affect populations subtly without overt command. That idea was quickly dismissed as anachronistic, and yet the bell remained. As weeks passed, the dreams began to change. Initially, people described only sound. Later, they described space as vast, hollow chambers, stone corridors, descending stairs, always accompanied by the sense of a distant ringing. A few residents began sketching what they saw. The drawings, collected independently, showed remarkable similarities. They resembled the chamber beneath the city. Authorities eventually ordered the excavation sealed. The bell was left in place. Official statements emphasized safety concerns and lack of cultural significance. The tunnel was rerouted. The site was closed. The dreams faded gradually, though some residents claimed they never stopped entirely. Even years later, a handful of people insist they still feel the bell at night, not ringing exactly, but listening. The bell remains underground, inaccessible, and undocumented. No museum claims it. No plaque marks its location. Tour guides avoid mentioning it. It has been, in effect, buried twice, once by its creators and once by history. Whether the bell was meant to warn, to guide, to control, or to communicate something we no longer understand is impossible to say. What is certain is that it was placed deliberately, hidden carefully, and erased from record with intent. And when it was disturbed, just once, it reminded the city that some instruments are not meant to be heard with the ears alone. Some are meant to resonate elsewhere.